Yes, welcome. We're here with the next episode. Tips and how to are kind of more continuation of the skills and basically just getting more and more advanced. And basically, this is kind of like driving and starting off. So basically, for all cars, start cheap but not too cheap. Practice like the pros, and it's all about lap times, lap times, lap times. Just getting faster and faster, basically. Or at least that's what it's about here, and what it's about with me, going faster and faster in lap times and improving technology. So basically, starting cheap but not too cheap. What's that even mean? It basically means you're getting into something. You don't need to try to get into driving cars and get a Ferrari or a Bugatti because you need to go 250 miles an hour and you need 1,000 horsepower. You don't need to go to the drag strip and hop in the Top Fuel or a Formula One car or a NASCAR. You probably should start off normal and start off somewhere a lot lower than the best anything when you're jumping into these things. For example, would be you could get a top of the line RC car, and you could get a top of the line like turbine jet that's $4,000 that makes 50 pounds of thrust, and you get out there and you break it, or you have something go wrong, or there's a glitch somewhere else, or there's a loose lug nut on your tire, or etc., that causes a lot of damage at the end of the day, right? So to keep you learning, to keep you progressing, to keep you getting better and better, it's just getting there and basically start cheap but not too cheap, and for you, you should find what that means for you. And to keep you out there, keep you driving. If something breaks, you have plenty of parts on deck just to fix it. If something goes wrong with your motor or whatever, you have enough money on deck just to fix it. Get out there, continue practicing and improving those lap times, right? So you might get into something, buy a car, and realize you need more range instantly and upgrade your radio for more range. Somebody else may get a car, upgrade their shocks because they want to do bigger jumps. Somebody else may upgrade the battery for more range. Somebody else may want more power from their ESC motor, just to be faster. And, so just start cheap, but not too cheap. And then when things start to fail you and when you know what you want, take it from there, is what I say. And basically, it's kind of impossible to tell anybody what they should want to dive into, like what hobby you should be interested in or what kind of car you should get, or should you be interested in on-road or drifting or realistic trail hill climbs or this kind of racing or drag racing or EDF only cars or cars with four-wheel drive only or four-wheel drive with EDF. It's impossible to say which you would want to get into and why and what you'd want to do with it. So I think all these rules generally apply though for any type of RC car. Start cheap, not too cheap. Practice like the pros in whatever you're trying to do, unless you're making up something completely new. And then make it all about like the lap times or the competitive aspect of your event. Like hill climbs really don't have lap times, but it's all about steeper and steeper hill climbs. So, just evolve that sport in a way, or whatever you're doing. So besides those general umbrella things that like blanket everything, more specifically four-wheel drive cars only and the EDF plus four-wheel drive cars and the thrust-only cars, I want to talk about specifically keeping all that stuff in mind that in blankets, all of them. I'm talking about crazy things as I'm making up new words like in blankets, right? So the four-wheel drive only car can do something called scrubbing and whipping, and basically that's just in-air control from the wheels. And let's not get into the why of these things just yet, but basically that's going to be one of your greatest tools as a four-wheel drive only car. You got to learn how to control yourself with your wheels, learn your wheels in and out, in the air and on the ground, peeling out, sliding, power sliding, drifting, cornering, sticking in the air, raising your nose up, tilting down, and ultimately scrubbing and whipping and whipping yourself in the air and coming off jumps in unique ways. Your next thing is going to be late braking, because you're going to be pretty light and you're going to have that motor to give you that wheel braking. You can kind of slide into places with that late braking, and use it like magic sometimes. And last but not least is just kind of like go all out. And four-wheel drive cars will kind of be the toughest cars and have the least amount of components, and they'll be light. So in ways, them going all out and pushing it to the limit, they'll be able to push to the limit and just go all out in certain ways that might help them stay in the lead or catch up in certain parts of the race. Now, the four-wheel drive car plus the EDF car is basically, you got to learn all the things of the four-wheel drive car, or learn your EDF four-wheel drive car with your four-wheel drive system only, with your EDF turned off, and then learn your car with the EDF only, and learn the EDF sides of things, okay? And then third, you have to learn both. You have to have your wheels powered up that might make you spin out and do a wheelie, and all of these things that go along with scrubbing and whipping and wheel control, and combine that with this thrust that wants to push you, and you gotta learn this whole new field, and that's kind of where the thrust only comes in. So if you have a thrust only vehicle, you gotta the first thing you're going to have to get down is your braking or your vectoring, right? If you have thrust only coming out of the back and no brakes, it's not going to go good for very long. So you're going to have to get brakes, or your vectoring can become your braking by thrusting in reverse or something like that. So secondly is your aerodynamics, and your weight are going to be key in a thrust only car. It's just really important. And last but not least is how you drive it. So you're going to have to get good with drifting it and hovercraft style racing and hovercraft style practice. So the four-wheel drive plus EDF car has to incorporate all of the four-wheel drive things and all of the thrust only things. So it's going to be the hardest to master, I believe, but it's not exactly true, because the four-wheel drive system in the EDF car kind of helps you stay more planted in the four-wheel drive side of things. And if your mind works better driving that style, it might help you have an easier time than just driving a thrust-only vehicle. The thrust-only vehicles, to be the fastest, you have to drift, and you have to have this hovercraft style whipping around. And some people might just have a hard time being fast in that mindset, right? It's kind of like watching a drift video on YouTube and fast forward. So this little diagram here is basically just to show, like, the EDF only car, the thrust car, right? It's coming up on its path, and it has to whip and prepare to go into this turn and drift around it and hovercraft power through it. And even though it's going to do that really quick, right, as long as its weight's down and it has good thrust, and he knows how to whip around this good and use all his thrust doing this, it's going to be pretty fast. But just the angle of going in is still going to be a wide drifting style kind of turn in a way. And a normal lighter four-wheel drive car, I'm showing how it might be able to sneak in, do some late braking, and then block the path and kind of make the thrust car have to go around him or something, or slow him down, kind of playing dirty, going all out, doing all he can do to win the race. And so until these things are really out there, tested with pros, driving, defending, like the four-wheel drive status, and then these newcomers coming out with all these things. I'm going to be with my four-wheel drive plus EDF, showing these people the power of these new kind of things, nobody knows who's going to win, really. And so that's why there's a question mark for where the four-wheel drive plus thrust car is even going to be in this situation. Right. So, last but not least, right, because the four-wheel drive car has that last bit of sneakiness to sneak into the race and maybe win. The thrust angle on the four-wheel drive EDF car is going to be another little crucial thing that you might want to have to work on and get perfect to have your car performing at maximum. You might not just want to have your thrust perfectly out of the back. You might want to have it out of the back and up at an angle for a little bit of downforce, and so when your car is going through the air, it's actually giving you a little bit of nose up, or who knows, maybe you might want it the other way around or something like that. Or if you're only on, say, like an oval going in one turn direction over and over, like left-hand turn after left-hand turn, you might want your thrust coming out of your back direction to the left or right to some degree. And then last but not least, the thrust-only car, I think a little tip is thin tires. Tires have gotten thick for traction and for acceleration and all these other factors, but for thrust-only cars, wide tires and all these things are really no good. You want thin tires to kind of be able to drift around more easy. And if you can't get thin tires, you might consider getting drift-style tires more so, or tires with just a lot less traction on that surface, just so you can drift around the corners easier, so you can power slide them using your thrust, making you the fastest you can be in that setup. So yeah, that's basically this video, and peace.